Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pain and Change with Dr. Clarice. Apologize for us being just a tad bit late. We had some technical difficulties, which is pretty normal in this world. My guest today is someone that I've been trying to get on the show for quite some time, Dr. Stephany Powell, who is an expert in human trafficking, which would be our topic. So I am trying to pull up Dr. Powell's bio that I had up that now has went by the wayside. So while I'm pulling up your bio, Dr. Powell, why don't you tell me about how long you've been involved in the human trafficking world, basically?
Okay, I will. So let's see. It started for me in law enforcement. I was a sergeant in LAPD. I worked there for about 30 years. And I was in charge of protection. And I started from there about 7 years. And so now I went from being in law enforcement to running a nonprofit Journey Out. And I did that for a total of 7 years. So, my gosh, if I had to think about it, it makes me sound old. It's been about 13, 14 years that I've really been intimately involved in the issue of human trafficking.
Well, I'm still trying to pull this up. I hate it when, I don't know, nothing seems to be cooperating with me today. Oh, here you are. Okay, so let me read your bio because it's an illustrious bio, and I was very impressed. As you know, I've been trying to get you on the show from day one, but because we were not able to be virtual, and you live in the land of with horses on a ranch and just blessed. You told me it was snow today, and when I talked to you earlier, you were putting your horses up and cleaning out the dogs and stuff. So that's pretty awesome. I'm coming to visit, so now it's official,
Perfect.
Right? So let me just tell you a little bit about Dr. Powell. Dr. Powell retired from the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, as a sergeant in charge of the Vice Unit. So I can imagine that was pretty interesting. Dr. Stephany Powell's unique insight into the world of sexual exploitation and trafficking gained through her 30 years of LAPD has made Dr. Powell an unparalleled choice to lead Journey Out in 2013, formerly known as the Mary Magdalene Project. Journey Out assists victims of human trafficking in finding their way out of violence, abuse through the sexual exploitations or forced prostitution. In 2020, she joined the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, NCOSE, as the Director of Law Enforcement Training and Survivor Services. She is also the Law Enforcement Human Trafficking Training Consultant of SELA Way Foundation. Dr. Powell's passion and expertise in this field has translated within the last 4 years into new policies for the LA Fire Department and the National Message School industry. She has led education and awareness workshops to various audiences of law enforcement, prosecutors, and communities throughout the country and internationally. Dr. Powell has spoken before the California Congressional Legislative Committee in the state capital of California and addressed Texas Legislative Black Caucus in Austin, Texas. Since 2013, she has educated over 8,000 people. So now it's 8,000 and how many clicks on this and ongoing. And she has received numerous awards and recognitions from LA County and city officials, as well as women of the NAACP and Masonic organizations. Dr. Powell is clearly the recognized expert on subject of human trafficking. Additionally, she is adjunct assistant professor of behavioral science in Los Angeles Trade Tech College. Dr. Powell's expertise on the subject of race and law enforcement has been showcased in documentaries, local newspapers, and magazines. She has most recently been highlighted in a PBS, public broadcasting station, subject of and Still I Rise. Oh, by Dr. Henry Louis Gates. That's awesome. I
I
love
love
him.
him.
Wow. He is amazing. Wow. Dr. Powell has been featured in HLN, Chris Como for her expertise in human trafficking. She recently authored a human trafficking workbook for teens, My Choice, My Body, My Rules. Her workbook is currently being used on the national and international level, which we would talk a little bit about her workbook as we move forward in this conversation. This interesting conversations with interesting people. That's what the Pain of Change is all about. And I am thrilled to have an interesting person sitting in front of me and virtually talking about human trafficking. So 30 years in law enforcement, which is by itself, I'm sure you have seen quite a lot, to say the
It's like
least.
dog.
And I mean, to say the least. And we have had a lot of different things, and with looking at the world of the pain of change, with all the things that we've seen with police brutality, uh, uh, civil unrest, but people do not see all the good that law enforcement also does also. And so that's what I want to talk to you about. How did you get involved of all the things that could have happened for you in 30 years? How did you get involved in human trafficking? Walk me through that.
So, I hear feedback still.
You
Yeah, I'm
do?
trying to ignore it.
Okay.
Do you have two mics on?
I don't I don't know. I'm gonna take this mic off and we're gonna just go with another mic and see if that helps at all.
Okay. Oh, now I can't hear you.
Me now?
Yes. Perfect. I can't hear me.
I can hear you perfect. I can always hear you. You just couldn't hear me. So how does this
Okay.
sound now? Is this better?
That's a little better. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So, when I was working, interesting enough, when I was working Vice, I worked Mission Division, which handles Van Nuys, Sylmar, that area. And there's not a large concentration of African Americans. However, that's all that we were arresting because that's what was out on the street. And I'm the type of person, for those that know me, I'm a talker. So, I would talk to the ladies, and they were from South Central LA, which is where I'm from, graduated from Dorsey, D House. And so, in talking to them, that's what really brought it to light for me because I was realizing that there were so many issues and there were services that were needed. And that is why they were out there on the street working for pimps. And so I quickly understood that it was an issue that just could not be arrested away. And so that's what initially drew my interest. And so as a result of that, I mean, the Vice unit, the guys that worked for me were fabulous. Because if you did not have either a victim-centered approach or understanding of people, you couldn't work my unit. And I got to choose to work my unit. And so there were times where we wouldn't make an arrest, where we would actually point them to services. And that's how I started. So interesting enough, I was letting them know about the Mary Magdalene Project. So when I retired, I ended up becoming the executive director of Mary Magdalene Project, which is now called Journey Out. And Mary Magdalene Project's been around for 40 years.
Wow.
Helping adult victims of human trafficking. So that's basically how I got here. One thing led to another, where I felt that law enforcement really needed to understand a victim-centered approach. and to start seeing these victims of human trafficking as victims, even though they were being arrested for the crime of prostitution. So I started going across the nation and teaching law enforcement about having a more victim-centered approach to this issue.
Well, and I've talked to several people, and it's really interesting to me that people don't realize that prostitution is human trafficking. They don't think of it that way. And when I asked them, well, what do you think prostitution is? And basically, they think it's like this voluntary thing, I guess, that you look at the TV one day and you decide, well, I need to make some extra money, so I think I'm gonna be a prostitute. But it comes in so many different facets. I know that I was talking to somebody a few years ago, and it surprised me that his younger brother, who I've known since he was a kid, and I just happened to ask him how his brother was, and he said, oh, he caught a case. I'm like, oh, no, really? And I'm thinking drugs, right? And I said, for what? Human trafficking. I said, human trafficking? I said, really? And what he had done on his college campus, he had decided to round up some women, African-American women, and basically suggest to them a way to make extra money in school and to help pay for their education was to solicit men for money, and that he would set this whole thing up. And I don't know how he got caught or whether it was a sting or whatever, but he eventually, after a couple of years, got caught and a few girls testified. But, you think, you send your children away to school. And we know that a lot of girls in college do stripping, to make extra, they brag about how much money they made as a stripper. So, you have all these different facets of human trafficking. So what can you tell me a little bit more about that? I know we talked about some statistical information. Before I get into that, I'd like to hear more from you and exactly how you see this, even in the year of 2021. And I'm sure the pandemic didn't let up. Right. Trafficking. It might have grown, right?
And here's the deal. When your friend, for instance, and the part again, but your friend, for instance, what he ended up being was a pimp.
Right.
And so where he's lucky is if he had been pimping out girls under 18, he could have been looking at a life sentence. That's how serious it is. And that's where this awareness piece, I think, is very important in the community, because while we're talking to our girls about not getting caught up, we need to be talking to our boys also about how not to get caught up. Because unfortunately, as a society, we've kind of started to we started to normalize prostitution. And so that's why you will see girls that will be trying to make extra money either by stripping, which stripping in and of itself is not human trafficking, but what it does, it makes them vulnerable because pimps visit the strip clubs, and so they run risks of getting caught up that way. You will also find girls, and if we have time, I'll talk about that later, who are getting caught up in OnlyFans. And so they may not see it, as, okay, I'm doing some videos and I'm showing my picture and selling it. Well, that in of itself is human trafficking, but they're opening themselves up again to the risk of being trafficked. When we talk about trafficking and prostitution, so just understand that what human trafficking actually is when someone is forced into prostitution by force, fraud, and coercion. So that could be a boyfriend talking, going to selling herself, And if he benefits from that, that's considered to be sex trafficking. So you might have people into prostitution that whatever money comes to them, that's prostitution. However, the end result of the damage psychologically is all the same.
Well, you know, we know prostitution has been around forever. So when and of course, I'm not a prostitute, I'm a call girl or whatever. It's all the same thing, right?
Yes.
So what we haven't talked about, we talked about the results of what's going on. Or now. So tell me, what would be a profile of a young woman that would end up in this situation?
Well, I'll give you the numbers when it comes to, and I want to be real clear that when we talk about this, we talk about the average age of entry for human trafficking is between the ages of 12 and 14. For African American girls, it is 11. And we never call anyone a child prostitute because it indicates choice. So even though you might drive down, let's say Figueroa, and you see girls on their phone and they're laughing and they're talking, and the concept is, well, they're out there because they want to be out there. Not everybody that's out there wants to be out there. There's some people that are being forced to be out there. So I think that needs to be extremely clear. So when I go on, because we also, I also still do outreach and giving out information to girls that are out on pay. And the girls that are out there because they're forced to be out there because they had a pimp, or they're forced to be out there because of poverty, right? And then you get girls that might be doing the call girl stuff, or they might be stripping, and they might be paying dates on the side in order to make more money. And so there's various reasons of why people are out there. But if you're being trafficked, you're either being forced, someone's using fraud, or coercion. So for a young person like this, let's say it's a mother. She meets a boy, she falls in love, and that boy is the best boyfriend she ever had. And so we are ladies that sometimes when we fall in love, we start. And so the suggestion might be that he may want you to either sell pictures on OnlyFans, or he might want to suggest you to sell your body. Nobody will know. You're doing it for us. And so that kind of becomes the scenario. They do it because they think this person is their boyfriend, right? And if this person is not your boyfriend, it's a pimp. So she sees her as a mom. She sees him as a lover. And so what happens sometimes with the adults, so you may have a 20-year-old who is being trafficked. A 23-year-old that was when she was 13. But because now she has missed school, her family has disowned her, now it becomes a thing of survival. So even the adults out there at some point could have been trafficking victims, or they are victims. And so it's a complex.
Can you adjust your mic? People are saying they're having a hard time to hear you.
Let's see.
Well, they just said that it's kind of, can the mic be better hard to hear? So Edna, can you tell me whose mic is hard to hear, if you don't mind? If it's still on? I think it's still on. Which mic is, I guess there's some noise in the background, but I don't know what the noise is. So there's nothing on at my house. I don't know what the noise is, and I have on the noise cancellation. So I don't know. I have to just, I don't know. It just might. Can you hear noise in the background too?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have on the noise echo cancellation. I have on the noise everything. I have automatically adjust. I don't know what it is, but okay, let's just move forward. We'll figure it out. I don't know why it's doing it this time. I mean, go ahead. She said she thinks, somebody said they think it's your mic because it seems like people can hear me fine, but your mic, you're not hearing. So I don't know. So anyway, go ahead. They're hearing you, but I guess somebody's texting. So they said it's hard hearing you. See, whatever's going on, I don't know what's.
Is that better?
I don't think that's better. It's really like a big echo. It's like a real bad echo now. Hold on, let me see. Oh, okay, hold on. All right, let's try this.
How about now?
Okay, I just did something to your mic. So, okay, people can let me know. Oh, I have an echo as well. Okay, let me see if I have an echo as well. So, okay, I don't have a clue. I put on my echo thing.
Mine is on too.
Yeah. All right. I put on both echoes. I don't know. This is the first time. This is the first time for everything. So, all right. So maybe this sounds a little better. I don't know. But it sounds better to me. You sing clear.
I sing clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. Oh, but everybody said it was your mic. Okay, so, all right, so Stephany. Okay. Okay, go ahead. So I think you're better. Go ahead.
So, God, where was I?
What were you saying? I don't know.
Okay, so the drivers for human trafficking is either that they're forced to talk into it, poverty driven, because even with COVID, you had girls who were out of the life, but unfortunately, because of COVID, they were out of the life and found jobs, but had to turn back into the street in order to survive.
So let me just give you some numbers. Let's talk, okay. This is Department of Justice numbers that you shared with me. So this is the DOJ. But this isn't anything that it's not emotional. It's not something that, we made up. This is real, right? And so let's walk through some of this. 40% of victims of human sex trafficking are African American, mostly women. 24% are Hispanic that are victims of sexual trafficking. 17% of labor trafficking victims are Asian, so people that are like masseuse in those massage parlors could be possibly part of human trafficking. 63% of labor trafficking are males, Hispanic males. So they are labor workers, but also very vulnerable. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because they're working, however they may be working, they're vulnerable. So if their boss or their supervisor says, well, if you want more hours, if you want more work, then you need to do this, or this. Is that maybe how it might go?
Yeah, it can go like that. One thing that I want people to understand when it comes to labor is that it also happens to African Americans as well. So sometimes it's that little boy that comes up to you wanting to sell magazines, so that he can get a trip to Disneyland. He never gets to Disneyland. Somebody has dropped him off, made him sell those books. If he doesn't sell X amount of numbers, then they will not pick him back up. He doesn't get probably very little of that money. So that's an example of the African American community and labor trafficking.
And we talked about, everyone that's supporting me right now, thank you. But what about how many of us that are watching this, and certainly I have been a part of this, and you too, Stephany, is Dr. Stephany, is the fact that the candy that we don't need anyway, but we support the candy. I remember when this candy was $1. Now it's $5. The candy's getting smaller, but they want $5 for it. Or the food cards where they for $20, you set up and you give them $20 and they give you a card with different restaurants on it. And you told me that, well, tell them what you told me today, that that's part of labor trafficking.
Right. So what it will look like is that that candy bar may really only cost $2. They're selling it for $5. But here's the important part. They're not connected to a school or an athletic club. So you won't see that on the candy bar. World Finest, and you have to sell those and they have the school imprinted. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be just candy bars that somebody might have taken out of Costco.
Like so almond and caramel and
right. Exactly.
So when you look at stuff like this and you look at the figures and you say call to action, protect our children in the Black community. I have a daughter, I have 2 daughters, a granddaughter, you have a daughter. By the way, while we keep saying SOAR, Stephany, Dr. Stephany Powell and I are in the same sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and we happen to also be, just by chance, of course, okay, part of Alpha Gamma Omega, AGO, on the go, as we are right now. So we are sorority sisters and in the same chapter, which is how I met her. And when I met her through the chapter, I didn't realize she was a SOAR. I thought she was coming in to do this talk. And then I was like, wow, this is so powerful. I was just blown away. And then I found out, I was asking somebody about you, and they said, oh, you mean SOAR Stephany? I said, she a SOAR? Because when you stood up there and talked, you had all this amazing knowledge, and you had this workbook, and you had all this passion, and that didn't mean you couldn't be a SOAR, but you came with your A game, and it was just such an interesting topic for a sorority situation that, I was just blown away. And so when you get involved in this whole thing, have you ever, okay, I have a few questions here, but I want to ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation as officer Stephany Powell, and you like to talk, but what you also have is a big heart. Okay. If have you ever or been in a situation where you just wanted to take someone home, protect them? You know, you got this big ranch out in the Santa Clarita Valley. Is that correct? Santa Clarita Valley? Right, okay. Canyon country, I guess they call it. I mean, God's country right here in Southern California. And sidebar, Dr. Stephany was extremely blessed with the fires that we had, the gender reveal fires that turned into a terrible loss, but survived. Her main house, when she was in a hotel being told everything was destroyed, and there was nothing left, and they couldn't go back, if I'm recanting the situation correctly, that you go back and your neighbor tells you everything's gone, and you're like, oh, just whoa, and you go back to your house when they let you go back. And you've got in your house, the back house is gone, but you didn't like the back house anyway, that man. You wanted to be gone. You've been trying to figure out how to get rid of that back house for years. You was gonna remodel it, you was gonna do this, but God had a better way. And your house, your main house, was the only thing that was left out of everything. So you have been a witness and lived through the fire. It wasn't human trafficking fire, but it was through the fire, and you were blessed and rescued. So have you been able to bless and rescue anyone through the journey project that you keep in touch with, that you know where they are? I know they love you. I know that they just bought you the brand new Lamborghini truck.
No.
No. Okay. So, I mean, I would just like to, just bring it up close and personal. I mean, you've done a heck of a lot of work here. So it has to tug at your heart because I hear the passion and the love. So is there a person or persons that you've been involved with through the years?
There's been so many. Just thinking about it makes me emotional because I would love to bring everybody home. In fact, my daughter says, "Do not bring anybody home," because she knows me. But just really quick, one quick story, and then I want to get into the social media side because I really want people to be aware of this stuff. I was working before. I'm sorry, we were working. There's a girl walking down Sepulveda selling herself, and she was 8 months pregnant. So we worked for the company. The girl, we couldn't believe that she was working and she was 8 months pregnant. Bad part is out there working, but there were people that were actually willing to buy. So we had to arrest her. When we got to the station to make the arrest, to put her in, they had to do a check with her to make sure that, the baby was okay and she was okay. And it was the check that any pregnant woman would go through in order, a doctor, OBGYN to check. But she took my hand and put my hand on her stomach because she wanted me to feel the baby move. At that very moment, we connected woman to woman. And
Wow.
then we started talking to this little girl that she was going to have to take care of. That same night, I happened to came up to the station looking for me. with the baby. She was probably, she was working with a shelter. She was, that's why she was working, because she had to put money on. So to be able to see this little baby girl and see her again, there's so many other stories that are out there. So when you see girls out there and we're ready to judge, know that they're women just like you and me. And that's what is when I stories and deal with people like that.
Wow. You know, I see you have feedback. I got it. We have a question. Before we get to the question, though, there's a couple things I want to say because we can go over. It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to kill us. Okay. I want you to talk to me about, or talk to our audience a little bit about my choice, my body, my rules. Now, first of all, I want to just say it's a workbook. I'm sure that Sora Stephany and Dr. Stephany can arrange for, if it's just small groups, you can, a small group or person, you can get this on Amazon.com. But for large groups, she would like for you to contact her at S. Powell, right? S. Powell at NCOSElaw.org. How'd I do? That was good, right? So S. Powell, I think I can put it up on the screen. S. Powell, NCOSElaw.org. But what I want to,
I put it in the
okay, good. Okay, it's in the chat. Okay, good. But this is something that I think along, parents fight things. They fight things like they don't want their kids to have certain things in school. I understand, because they want to protect their children. But what they're not looking at is that you can't protect your kids from the world. Once they get to a certain age, I was having a conversation in the car, and somebody said, "Is your grandson in the car?" And my grandson said, "It ain't nothing I ain't heard before." I looked at her, and later I said, "Nolan, Grandma, I'm 16. You don't think I know anything about sex?" I'm like, "I don't know. Do you?" Right? But here's the thing. It's a different world. And I want to segue into that because you want to talk about social media.
Yes, definitely. God, where do I start? Yes, I talk about it, and I hope people can hear me. But as I talk about social media, what I'm not suggesting is that you take the phones and computers away from your kids. But what they need to do is understand the trappings that are out there. So I'm going to talk just now about OnlyFans. And if you've not heard of OnlyFans, trust and believe your kids have. So it's only, like the only person, and fan. So I could take a picture of me and put myself on OnlyFans. People would pay for me to do certain things, and the money is going to go to me directly and also to OnlyFans administratively. So that could be anything from me selling maybe nude photos, or it could be me making jewelry and teaching other people how to make jewelry. So OnlyFans is not set up for sexual purposes, but it's starting to be used as that. And there have been kids as young as 16 years old on OnlyFans selling nude photos.
How old?
10. 1 0. And so how that may happen is either because family members can be pimps too. So don't get it twisted.
Oh, right. I talked about that. Yeah, women can be, because you have a big lesbian population that has decided that they gonna be the pimps.
So you got mothers selling their daughters, grandfathers selling, but you also have kids selling themselves. Because what happens is a girl might tell another girl, or a boy might tell a girl, it's not gender specific. Hey, if you put yourself on OnlyFans, people will pay for you to do certain things. But here's the bad part about OnlyFans. You cannot build a fan base on OnlyFans. You build your fan base by Twitter, Facebook, and you direct them to OnlyFans. Because if I'm on OnlyFans and you try to do a script, you're not going to own me. But so I have just moved my fan from Twitter, Facebook, some of the others into OnlyFans. So those are things that parents need to be aware of. What these kids don't understand, that once their pictures are out there, it goes viral. Another thing I want people to have conversations with their kids about is that if they have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and that person says to me, send me some nudes of yourself or send me some videos of you doing whatever, it's only going to be between me and you. If that gets shared by that person or to somebody else, and it goes to Pornhub, people can, other pornography sites could break that off of Pornhub. Now this thing has gone viral, and it's hard to get off. So where I'm working now at the National Center on Exploitation, we just filed a lawsuit on Twitter. That was a 16-year-old boy who was selling, who thought he was talking to someone his own. They asked him some pictures of himself. He did. It went viral. But here's what you have to understand. The parents contacted Twitter to get those photos and videos taken off. Twitter didn't do it. That's why Twitter's getting sued. Pornhub is another one that's notorious.
Pornhub?
Okay, so for those of you that don't know Pornhub.
Pornhub.
Yes. So Pornhub, and I'll put that in the chat as well. Pornhub is for pornography. So let's say if you're, people will take pictures of themselves and say sex. If somebody uploads that to Pornhub, that just went viral. It's hard to get those taken down regardless of whether you are a minor or you're an adult. And people's lives have been damaged and destroyed as a result of this. So what we're also looking at the National Center of Sexual Exploitation is that if anybody's ever become a victim of this on social media, regardless of whether it's Twitter, Google, whatever it may be, please contact me.
Wow.
It's damaging these kids' lives. If you get a chance, there's an article called "The Children of Pornhub." That young lady thought she was in a relationship. She was a high school student with her boyfriend. He asked her to take pictures of herself. She did. It went viral. That young man about from Twitter, he tried to commit suicide because this stuff everybody in the school has seen. That young lady ended up leaving school. She's now 19 years old and homeless.
With a baby?
So, and so with COVID, kids are constantly on their computer.
Right.
They are being contacted. Just ask your child, have you ever been contacted by somebody you don't know? And I bet you they're going to tell you that they have. Those predators are out there contacting these kids to befriend them. They might think that they're talking to somebody their own age. They befriend them. They may have them send them pictures. Then they're going to say to them, if you don't send me more pictures, I'm going to tell your parents this thing is going to go viral. So that's how they end up down the rabbit hole. Those pictures end up being sold on pornography sites for child sexual exploitation. So law enforcement has seen an uptick in these type of complaints. So back to the computer. The free computers that the schools were given, those Chromebooks, you've got to make sure that the parental, what I want to say, that the parental filter and stays on. You want to have a conversation with your kids about social media. I think it's, you want them to just be able to use it responsibly and be able to tell you if someone is trying to blackmail them, even if it's somebody that's their name.
Or somebody you know. I mean, right. I mean, and make children understand what that means, because it's a form of bullying. It's also a form of bullying.
It is.
Yes, a total form of bullying.
Lastly, I wanted to say this really quick, and I'll put this in the
go ahead. Take your time.
There is a bill that's up right now that we're trying to get in Congress called the Earnings Act. And the Earnings Act would make Google, some of these search engines, big tech responsible for when there is child pornography. See, for right now, I'm going to use something, Dr. Clarice. I'm going to get in trouble for having child pornography and sending it to you. You're going to get in trouble because it's in the but Twitter and Google will not because of that. So there's an act trying to get out there that you guys need to look up and make this push because that's what's going to protect our children.
Well, I'll tell you. I wanted to make this. Let's go to. We have a question. If anybody has any questions, we're gonna. Our Dr. Edna Burns has a great question, and thank you for supporting SOAR Edna. Question, Dr. Powell. 2 weeks ago, NBC featured the prostitution issue in South LA, and of course, my church is all over the news, 64th and Figueroa Street. We have written letters to 77th Precinct and City Council representatives. We want the trees cut. Oops, I just lost it. Oops, what the heck? Okay, there's the question. We want the, can you see it on the screen? We want the trees cut and better lighting. If we cut the trees, we get fined because it's city property. It's like, you really want to help, but they did mention Journey Out, Dr. Burrows.
Okay, so, Dr. Burrows, here's what I would like to do for you. I would like to, you and I need to talk so I can get in touch with 77th Division because that's the lead officer can be the in-between with the city. They have those trees cut. You also need to look at lighting. There's all kinds of things that you can do. You may see, okay, so I'll turn it political, but the new district attorney has, so what he's doing is there's something called 647F of the penal code. So that encompasses both the person who is buying sex and the person that is selling. He is not going to prosecute anybody who gets arrested for that. So that means if you're buying sex, you're not going to get in trouble. If you're selling it, you're not going to get in trouble. No, we don't want anybody. No victim should get arrested, right? So victims of human trafficking should not get arrested for prostitution. We understand that that's a given. But what it does is it can open up the door. So if you're in the city of Los Angeles, that has remained the same. They're still making arrests because it's a misdemeanor crime under the city attorney's office. But if you're outside the city of Los Angeles, that means the district attorney deals with misdemeanors as well. So I encourage folks to look at that. And I'm supportive of the sheriff's department and others that are trying to get him to take a relook at that. But there's things that you can do environmentally to try and help. There's been studies that have been done about the environment and street walking prostitution, and to be able to come up with ways to either slow it down or at the same time giving the services that are needed, which is all the reason why they're out there in the first place.
So as a private citizen, I look at Grey's Anatomy, and there was a situation where one of the doctors, Dr. DeLuca, I think his name was, felt a young woman was being trafficked, young girl was being trafficked, and they were just incensed with him because he had recently been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So of course they thought it was his bipolar disorder, and that the girl, but it turns out that she had been was being trafficked, and it was a big ring, a huge ring. And so, is this one of the, what is some of the, so if I'm in let's say I'm in a restaurant, and I noticed that an older man is with young girls or whatever, a young girl, and she looks like really uncomfortable and things. Well, I'm pretty vocal and you're pretty vocal, but what if you're not, we're the kind of people, well, I don't carry a badge and a weapon, so I should probably be less vocal, but what would be some things that you could suggest in terms of approaching someone or calling a manager, or maybe even being kind of using psychology and engaging in calling the police, but engaging in conversation with the people to interact with them while the police are coming, maybe, but something to possibly stop. And I mean, of course, if the police come and the man said that's his daughter, and the little girl says, yeah, that's my dad, I mean, what do you do? I mean, what are some of the signs if you're a teacher in school? I mean, what you say call to action? So what can we really do?
Can you still hear?
Huh?
Can you still hear?
Can I hear you?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I can hear you. You can't hear me?
And you can see me, huh?
Can I see you?
Huh?
Yeah, I can see you.
Oh, because I can't see you. You just left. But that's okay.
I left? You don't see me?
Nope.
You see me now?
No, don't worry about it. I'll just answer your question if you can see me.
Oh, yeah, I see you.
Okay. So,
we're both on screen. You can't see me?
No. That's okay.
I don't know what's going on your end, because I see you clearly and I hear you fine, and I'm on screen.
That's okay. I'll just answer the question.
Okay, all right.
So, nobody should ever engage with anybody directly. Two reasons. One, if you start talking to that victim, you could get that girl beat up, or possibly killed. So you don't want to make contact directly. You need to call the police, maybe figure out if they're in a car, the license plate number without them knowing. If she's walking around the street, you might make a phone call, but you don't want to endure it. You can also call the human trafficking hotline as well, but you need to call somebody. But you will run the risk if you try to contact her directly.
So what is is it like just human trafficking hotline or something you can call?
Yeah, so there's National Human Trafficking Hotline. That's a nationwide. Or just one.
Sora Ennis says, we'll talk offline. Thank you. You're welcome, Sora, Dr. Edna. Appreciate your support. I'm sure Dr. Sora Powell would love to speak with you on her vision, and I'm sure it will be resolved. Okay, so we'll put that in the chat, and also text it to me, and when I post this online, I will put all this information, how to contact you, the name of your workbook, my choice, my body, my rules. And it's available on Amazon if you just want small quantities, but if you want to do it for a large group, please contact Dr. Stephany Powell at spowell@ncoselaw.org. That's spowell at ncosele.org. Law. Wait, I think I have a thing.
It's
in the chat. Okay.
Yeah, you put it up.
All right. So you should, I think it should be on there, and I think we should be fine. So I really appreciate you for coming in. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. And it's on the ticker now, spowell@ncoselaw.org. So it's running on the bottom. And I'm excited that we finally got together. It was great information. I would like to, invite you back if there's a follow-up. If there's some conference or something that you want people to be involved in, please use the Pain of Change to help with getting the word out. I always welcome that. And if I thank you. We're going to end this show. If you have anything, if there's an aha moment that you want to leave us with, why don't you do that? Why don't you tell if there's something that you would love for us to know?
So here's the call to action. It's awareness, advocacy, and legislation. We need to hold our legislators and lawmakers accountable for ending this situation in our communities by either enforcing laws or creating new ones like the Unit Act. We need to be advocates. So advocacy could be anything from, joining nonprofits that are trying to help young ladies and men that have been drawn in here into this issue of human trafficking and awareness. I'm all about awareness. So contact me if you'd like me to come and speak, because I think young people and parents need to know what is out there and what they could do about it. So the 3 calls to action are awareness, advocacy, and legislation. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're so very welcome. And Ellen Burroughs said to thank you. It was very, very helpful to her goddaughter's family. So, and I always say, if you don't make a difference but in one person's life, then one person can change all sorts of things. So you're very welcome. If you hang on a minute, gonna end the live broadcast, but I appreciate you. I'm so glad we did this. It was so informative, and we, I'm sure that it's gonna resonate a long way because it's a bigger problem than we want to think about, and we
Right.
need to stop ignoring things. I mean, these are our children. These are our children, and they deserve a chance. And we have to show them that there is hope other than selling their bodies and what their worth is. So hold on a minute. I don't think, let's see, do we have any more? Oh, it's people just saying thank you, great talk, and it certainly was, and I certainly appreciate it. Thanks everybody for listening, and thank you. We're going to end it with my the pain of change. So thanks everybody. I appreciate everyone. Until next time, coming up on our show will be Megan Orr, who's going to talk about generational wealth, and also we're going to figure out how to get some men on here talking about Christian dating. The pain of change, and to talk to interesting people. Love everybody. Thank you. Have a great evening.